Hello, it's Monday. No, it's not. It's Tuesday. It's what bank holidays do to us Brits. Really confuses us. Everyone at work had Monday morning itis as well. There was definitely not enough coffee going around those people. So today we are gonna finally make bobbins. So I have in front of me, not that you can see it yet, set out a pile of bits, which are all the bits that I'm going to need to make my bobbins. Now, I have pre-done some bits, but not all of them, so that you can see each bit that I'm going to do, and I'm going to explain why I'm doing them. But I've done a bit of work ahead of time, just because, well, frankly, do you really want to watch me sand a bunch of sticks? The answer to that is not really. Now, colouring the sticks is not really any more interesting, nor is painting the sticks, nor is gluing the sticks, in my humble opinion, really any form of spectator sport. However, here is the crux of the things that you will need. 1. Sticks. When you buy some sticks, and I will show you in a minute the difference between good sticks and bad sticks. Hello! So, you will need some wooden sticks. The width of the wooden stick is entirely up to you. I recommend somewhere between 5 to 8 millimetre sticks. Length of stick should be probably between 10 and 13 centimetres. Right? If you can't get that, chop them. Because, well, that's a thing. If you can't chop them yourself, find a man who can. Local Facebook groups are good for these things. Or maybe your hardware store will be kind. Finding that, a junior hacksaw from Amazon will suffice. But do be careful, you do kind of want them pretty accurately the same length. You will possibly need some sandpaper. Now, if you're really lucky, no you won't. I need some sandpaper because one of the beads that I will talk about in a minute is too small. Now, I bought my beads off Amazon, which relies on accurate piece details. And I searched for beads with the same size hole as the stick which I bought. Now, if you're wise, you will actually buy 2 sizes of stick, a fat and a thin. One you will then drill a thin-sized hole in the fat one and glue them together and call it a bobbin, and not need per se beads on it. But I quite like the look of these when they're done. So, on top of that, you will potentially, if you so desire, need some form of colouring for your bobbins. So, you are going to either paint, stain, draw even. If you're artistic, you may draw the most beautiful of patterns. I can't draw stick men, so no patterns for me. Although patterns would look rather cool, especially if you did some form of kind of Aztec looking things. I'm using then on top of that some matte varnish. Reason being, buggered if I'm going to do all this work and have the colour rub off on my lace thread, so that's a thing. And lastly, some beads. Now, I have chosen metal beads because I am not a dainty lady. I do not want Honiton bobbin style toothpick weight bobbins. I wanted some with effort. So I have picked 5 metal beads, including a ball bearing. And there's a reason I've picked a ball bearing. There are other ways to do it, and I will explain. So, let me show you what I've got. Here is my collection of stuff, right? Here are my sticks, au naturel, as I bought them. So, there they are. These are my wooden sticks. I have my method of colouring, which I have chosen a Sharpie. I did try, and I am not overly displeased by black wood stain. However, Black on the black wood stain is different. And, well, I quite like the Sharpie black. I know that black should be black. Hello! So, colour them with a Sharpie. Sandpaper, I've only ripped off a small chunk of sandpaper because, well, you don't really need a lot. Because, as I said, I need to make, because, these ones? No, it's not those ones. These ones, I think, are too, no, it is these ones. I think it's these ones are too small. And then I've got my selection of beads to go on the end, and my clear varnish. A clear varnish applicator for those of us who tried makeup in the 80s and found ourselves looking like clowns. These are the kind that you get with makeup kits, but you may buy them in little packets on Amazon. She says, wondering where the hell the packet went. I've put it somewhere safe. Yeah, I put that somewhere safe. For it's not over there anymore. Problem is like so many other things, every packet of things looks like every other bloody packet of things. There they are. So, I got a packet of them. I know they don't sharp very well because of the shiny, but there's a packet of them, so I have spares. I didn't know how many I'd need. Now, technically, if you're going to stain, you probably should use different ones so that you can kind of get a conveyor belt going, because stain takes a while to dry, as does technically this. But as you will see, sucks to that, they will get left at the end of it. And the part of the reason I'm going to do it at the end is because at the end the beads will hold the wood off the surface and therefore allow it to dry without touching anything. I thought that, you see. So, stage one for me, just to prove, what we do is we get one of the offending doesn't fit beads, and I'm sure it's this one. Yeah, it's this one. Doesn't go on, right? So what I have to do is keep mind bead that doesn't fit and basically make it a bit pointier. And because I spent a lot of meetings doing this today, I am getting quite adept at the whole pointier thing. Evening! So, just try and even that one up a little bit because there's a slightly higher bit there. You don't want to do too much of it, just enough that it should kind of ram on the end. Do with a little bit more. Just kind of fitting, but not quite. So, like that. That should fit quite well now. Yep, that fits. See, it doesn't come off. One. So see, you didn't really want to watch me do 40 more, did you? Right. So I'm going to put an end on all of these. I mean, they don't actually take very long. But again, who wants to watch me sand 40 sticks? So, I'll do. They do not I mean, if you had more accurate tooling, such as a lathe, you would clearly slithe off just the tiny slither to fit inside the... But as I don't, and I'm certainly not buying one, just so I can take a couple of down 0.5 millimetre on the end so that it fits a bead. But I mean, obviously, would I like to have a lathe to turn my own bobbins? Oh God, yes. But well, it is. It is good fun, and it is something that, if you've never done it, is something that you need to do carefully, obviously. Oh, well, I had a father who was a carpenter, so I started at an early age. I made quite a few things, actually. That reminds me, I wonder if the people who moved into his house were aware that the banisters were ones that me and my dad made. I'm pretty sure they'll have ditched the kitchen, which my dad made. because he made his own kitchen. It was a little bit imposing because he did kind of go over the top, actually. So if you think of a standard kind of small British kitchen, so I don't know, let's say it's kind of, this marks the outside wall. It's this sort of size. There was a pantry in the corner, a window here, and a back door here, and the door to the hall there. There used to be a hatch into the living room there, but, well, my dad filled it up. So he built from the pantry a kind of standard sink, high level countertop that went all the way round to the door, and then put eye level cupboards all the way along this wall, so my mum had so much space. But then the bit between the pantry and the back door used to be a table, and the oven. Obviously the oven has to go somewhere, so the oven was here, because my mother had a floor standing oven. He built he made it all built in, but with like a cupboard on the end. And it wasn't a dark wood, but he did, so when he built it, I think he did make it out of pine, but he stained it so it was a bit darker. And it meant that because it wasn't a very big room, I mean, to give you an idea, I think if I lay down and did kind of starfish, I almost could touch the corners. I mean, it was a bit bigger than that, but not a lot, right? Let's put it this way, it was not a big room. You couldn't put a table in it once all the cupboards and stuff were in. So it was not a big room. I mean, my kitchen here is huge, but that was not. And it just kind of imposed a little bit much. And I bet some buggers, they've either would have painted it white, and my father would be spinning in his grave if he knew that. There we go. And so, yeah, because, I mean, they weren't quite this dark, but they were getting there. You know, it was quite an imposing set of cupboards. And of course, the door to the pantry was also the same colour. Now that was teak. But it did mean that the whole kitchen, and then of course my dad, who had about as much taste as I do. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't pretend to have any taste. That's why I kind of paint all of my rooms kind of light beige colour. And while everything else is usually on a beige front, so it's kind of harmless, but it's not white. Well, he was an explosion in the colour factory kind of guy, and you know, kind of like the kitchen, he then painted. Try not to laugh. Kind of a teal colour. It was something else. It was unpleasant, I think is the word I'm after. It was not a great choice. It was certainly something that, you know, even if I'd gone to live there, which was, you know, if he'd died a few years later after COVID, so if he'd managed to wait a couple of years kind of thing, I would have gone to live there because, well, London, better internet speeds, although it has to be said, the village, town, whatever, was not what it had been when I was a kid, so it wasn't quite the thing, you know, like everything, it had moved on, and I'm not sure I would have loved it as much as my brain thinks it would, but I certainly would have enjoyed the internet that he could get, because, hell, damn it, I mean, even at lunchtime, when I was there, so that's good 7 years ago now, I could get 103 different places deliver food to me, comparison to here. You know, where although I can now get 20 something, it is that's really high for around here. It is kind of, you know, so, and that was obviously 7 years ago, when round here you were lucky if you had like 5, you know. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, there were good points and plus points to it. Probably wouldn't have needed a car, because the vet was within walking distance. Right, so I have now sanded all of them. I'm going to take my piece of sandpaper away, and in true child format, wipe with my sleeve. Right, next up, we colour them. Now, as you can see, I have coloured these. Now, the biggest problem with them as they stand is the colour does come off. And if I take this corner here and give this a bit of a rub, it leaves a bit of a mark. Now, it's not the end of the world, because we're going to put varnish over the top. So, we are going to colour the sticks now. And it is exactly as you might expect. You colour the stick. Now, the reason I'm doing this is I'm going to colour it all from one end, because, well, you've got to hold it somewhere. If you do it while it's wet, you're going to end up with a lot of Sharpie on your hands. If you do it with paint colouring, same's going to be true with that. Do it with paint, stain, paint, you're going to have to. And yes, I am doing the ends, even though technically you won't really see the ends, but why not? Just to be, you know, in case it all falls apart later. So, there we go. Dop, 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 dop. I had some dull meetings today. Right. Now, before you ask why there are only 8 in this section, it's because I already did 2. Okay. So. Now, I do intend to make about 100 of them in the long run, so that I have enough to do my either a square or a strip. I know you can't really see a lot, but, well, if you're not capable of waggling a pen across a stick, well, God help you all. Right, blob, blob, blob. Now, this one almost has dried out enough that I can hold a bit of it, and I can now colour in the rest of it. She says, scabbing her finger with it. We went through this earlier. The answer is it does, but in my case, I didn't like I had to do a couple of coats of it, and I didn't like the black as much, because black, of course, is not black. There is no such actual colour as black. There is only a lot of pigments that make it look black. Yeah. So, I'm trying not to repeat myself too much, because, you know, hopefully it's going to be a fairly short video, really. Just because it's going to be. I don't think you really want to watch me spend hours painting sticks. But you see, already it's coming off my hands like nothing else, which is why I couldn't do it while we were doing any lace making. Because even though this has dried off to a large extent, it's still very easy to end up with far too much of it on my hands. So if you have some rubber gloves as such, and you can actually feel what you're doing when you're wearing rubber gloves, i.e. you're not me, feel free to wear some. And depending on the chemicals that you choose, this can be very advisable. So if you use the wrong kind of varnish, do not get that shit on your hands. This stuff seems to be kind of water washable, so this isn't so bad. I'm not going to test it by sticking my hands in it, but I have put my fingers on it. I have got some on my fingers and it just washed off, so that was a good thing. Doesn't wash off once it dries, but it washes off while it's still kind of wet, so suggesting perhaps that it is slightly water soluble, which is potentially a good thing. It doesn't say you can thin it with water, which is a bit disappointing. No, I can't. I'm like that. I turn into a complete mung bean, and you know, it's like this. It's like there's someone else. If you've seen those things where a person sits at a table, but someone else's hands, and then they try and feed them or something. Yeah, that's how my hands are when I've got gloves on. They're like someone else's. It's just not pleasant. So, to be honest, I'd rather spend a day washing my hands and scrubbing them with a brush than that. So, I'm going to pick them up and put them there. Grab these, because these have been drying for a while. Stage 3. No, not stage 3 yet. Stage 3 is applying beads. Now, I have some bead glue. Some beads. Let's open up all my little boxes. And yes, this is not the box these beads at the end came in, but it was a box I had. Well, you should have seen me like 20 seconds before I hit go on the stream, because all of these were very carefully grouped together in elastic bands so that the ones I hadn't sanded were apart from the ones that I had sanded, but not, and the ones that I had coloured. So there were like 3 pots of the... They went. So before I even started, swearing was rife. Okay. Darling, if you could see outside my window, that's all we've got here, and all. Yeah. It has to be said, England is the source of rain. We do rain rather well. So I've turned them around so that I know which end is the short end. And all. Yeah. I mean, we have had occasional sunny days. Do not get me wrong. See, look at the state of me. Hang on. I can't really wipe my hands on my cloths because I put them on the table. And I don't really want to spit and use my trousers. Oh well. Never mind. I did, but one of the other things is that sometimes I can smell it and sometimes I can't, and I haven't entirely understood why I can only sometimes. So, now comes the really dull part. So what I do is, because these are going on the top, so I do apologise, but I can't see to do it very well, is I put the glue on the edge. It is one of those things, it's the same as if you grow up with your parents always doing a certain thing, right? You grow up thinking it's perfectly normal. And it's only when someone goes, "What do you mean, X?" and you kind of look at them a bit blankly. It's important to get them on fairly straight. But you say to them, "Oh, what do you mean you can or you can't insert whatever the thing is?" And they look at you. Well, but I mean, for example, my parents didn't let me do an awful lot of things as a child. Virtually everything was banned, right? To the point most people would think I had, you know, if I wrote down all the things that I was and wasn't allowed to do, you'd think I was born in the Victorian era. I did not go around friends' houses. Friends did not come to my house. I did not go out playing. I was not allowed a Saturday job, a paper round. I was not permitted to you know, if I didn't have anyone to play with because I have no brothers and sisters. So it was keep out the way, keep quiet. And of course it did land glue side down, didn't it? There we go. And it meant that, you know, literally, every time that the school holidays were on, I kind of didn't look forward to it because, well, I never saw anybody. My mother was too busy doing housework. I say that. I look back and no, she bloody wasn't. But she was too busy to do anything. She did not take me places to entertain me like you hear of all these kids today. My parents did not take me on holiday. My parents did not buy me things. I got one present for birthday, one present for Christmas, and usually it was something made, not bought. And so it was cheap. I really was like, I can't do this with my glasses on. And I get an itchy face. You know how whenever you've got dirty hands, you get an itchy face, right? My parents were bad. And I didn't know because, well, I had no one to compare it to. I didn't realise that my parents... Why is there... Why? First of all, the kids didn't speak to me. Secondly, yes, but for completely different reasons. I was... It is, but at the same time, the moment you've got shit on your hands that you don't want on your face, all your face does is itch. When you've got clean hands, fine. Look at the state of my fingers. Look at that. So I'm sorry if you can't really see what I'm doing, but I haven't got my glasses on so that I can accurately put stupid end of glue on stupid bead. No, well, to be honest, I've definitely inherited that to some extent. I have low standards, should we call it. Well, and interestingly enough, it didn't do us that much harm. It was... There are things that did us harm, and there are things... Oh, fucking bollocks. I mean, let's face it, and I mean this with all respect to everybody. Isn't it funny how, while many things have been around for a while, there are an awful lot of things that are modern problems. Obesity. And of course you're all on adverts. Oh well, I'll go back to sleep. Come on, glue, out of there. Wrong thing. I need a lot of things. To retire is definitely one of them. You might be able to answer this, Ashley. I export all these my videos to YouTube, so I upload a video pretty much every day, so at least 5 or 6 times a week. Hi, you've missed bits, but catch up on the video, right? So I upload the videos to YouTube, and as I say, I generally end up posting about 5 or 6 a week. Most weeks I only miss 1 day. So why does YouTube tell me I've only uploaded 3 videos in the last 90 days when it comes to the do I qualify for monetization? Now, I don't really give a shit about the monetization, but I clicked on it by mistake, and it's preying on my mind that it says I've only uploaded 3 videos in 90 days, where you can go to the content page and there's like 20 already. It's not all of them, you know? No, they're all live. You can go and see them. They're all public. That I understand. Click on, type exclamation socials, exclamation mark socials, or the about of the channel. It's on there. It's kind of got the same. It's got Lizzie Arts and Craft or something. There you go. Just gonna clean my fingers slightly. Right. So we're done with you. We'll put the ball bearings on last. So I put the top bead on. She says now without glasses going to try and do the minefield of I need one of those. Put you on in a minute. Well, it's one of the it's one of those things is that, but at the same time, how do you contact YouTube? Because it's not like there's a, you know, there isn't like a contact us button or a what the fuck button. Well, I've tried the what the fuck button, but so funnily enough, it's really weird. The 2 I made earlier, these big beads barely fitted on the end. This one slides, which is really, of course, helpful. So let's clean the end of this a bit more. And so we need to apply a good globule of glue. On this. And you go on from one end and you come down from the other. Like that. Is that enough? No, of course not. Like that. Well, to be honest, I'm nowhere near monetization because you've got to do something for a year before it will even give you it, so yeah, you've got to have so much for over a year, and, you know, I'm nowhere near that level. But it was the fact that, you know, out of all of the things, suddenly, you know, I noticed that, you know, it's like everything. Wasn't really caring, didn't really pay lots of attention. But I clicked on a thing and saw a blatant lie, and your brain's going, well, that's not true. Hang on. So let's put some glue around here. Bobbin on one end, slide you down. Yep, there's some glue for you. So as you can see, they're looking all right. It's not exactly exciting. Should have put the bobbins on first. Stupid. This one could be a bit of a nightmare. Because now I've got glue on before I put my beads on. You didn't tell me, did you? Right. You go on next. And you go on last. See this one? I don't really want to go on at all. The top one's come off now. Down there. Gonna need a bit more glue on this end then, I think. I am not the right person for this art. This is not. My neighbour said to me, "Oh, could you give up? If you could, could you make enough money to give up your job doing that?" Not on keep my sanity, honey. Not on keep my sanity. Feeling that top one's not quite as solid as it should be. So let's put you over there. I hold my breath doing these things, which is stupid, and I don't know why I do it. And of course now I'm getting hot, so let me take my jumper off. Oh no, it's still going. I just don't go there anymore. Can't be bothered. Chris took over, Atos took over, and he's doing a much better job of it than the other two bozos. They sold it to him, but it's funny how they still show their faces when it suits them. So you still have Lord British's birthday, Star still swans around like the complete druggy weirdo that he always was. So no, it's still very much alive. They're still producing patches for it. One of the guys got a job as a dev to help Chris out, but it's funny that you should say tired of the limelight. I don't feel that was entirely what it because they all went up, because Lord British then went on to, and Star both went on to start a new game which died almost instantly, by the way, run on NFTs, which I don't know how the fuck that was supposed to work. Mind you, I don't entirely understand NFTs either, so let's not pretend that that's not a thing. But that died, thankfully. It was, which was really quite sad, really, because when I originally started playing it, it was in a, I won't say a good place, but it was in a good place for where it, at the stage it was at. I now currently play another game. So I'm just mapping out my big beads here. See, this doesn't even go on the end. If it doesn't go on the end, because they're not all the same, even though they are all the same, if you know what I mean. There are considerable, let's call them, Yeah. Well, and it was the fact that not only did they just put it out for a release, they made such... I think there's been a few videos recently on, like, scam games, for want of a better word, where, you know, they asked money for backers and, you know, oh, they took all these millions. And then there was one game recently, I can't remember what it was because I didn't play it, but there was one game where it was literally just an asset flip. And they tried to pretend that it was a really great game, and it kind of died almost the day it arrived. I don't know what I'm going to do with you, because you're just too small. Let's get a different one. Wrong one. You're going to discover now that they all don't fit, aren't they? No, that one fits. That one slides right on, so that's good. And Shroud of the Avatar was mentioned. Because, as you and I both know, before they took the amount of money made off their homepage of their website, at one point it said around $20 million. Through all of the, you know, quarterly fundraisers, which then became monthly the moment that one on Lord British's birthday didn't make enough money. They had to run another because, quote, hey, people have fed back that they didn't have the chance. Well, they had as much chance as everybody else, so... It wasn't that it wasn't making good progress, but it was the amount of money that they raised versus the game that came out the other end. I think that was more of their point. Not that the game itself didn't happen, because of course the game did happen, but it was more that the game that happened was lacking. I mean, if I look back and no, it's not. I'll defend that. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's absolutely feasible to do in Unity what they want. There are some quite big games out at the moment with lots of players in. They all use Unity. That was fine. And they've got building and the like in it. So yeah, I'll defend that. But no, it could then. It definitely could then. Absolutely could. Another one that's too small. See, this is the problem. I've got so many of these beads are just completely different sizes. Right. Let's glue you on. It must be warm in here. Alexa, what's the temperature on the downstairs thermostat?
The downstairs thermostat temperature is 20.5 degrees.
Oh, bullshit. So not 20 and a half. I've taken my jumper off, Alexa. You need new glasses. But, you know, at the end of it, it wasn't the engine that was letting them down. I think... Hiya. So yeah, they certainly didn't do themselves any favour with a lot of areas, I think. And, you know, hindsight is a glorious thing for them. You know, it's easy to look back and go, oh, well, you should have done this, you should have done that. But at the time, you know, people like you and I had views and had hope. The problem is that I found that the more I played it and the more they did to it, the further away from what I wanted, it looked like it was going to be, it got. You know, when I first joined, the death penalty was hard, the levelling took a while. It was a game to sink time and effort into. Oh, but I can't die. And then they made that zone, I can't remember where it is, the dungeon, where everyone, basically the entire world, went to live for a day and came out kind of like level 60 with millions of pounds of money and more skill points than you knew what to do with. And you're kind of going, well, that killed the game. And to be honest, I didn't stay much after that. After all those months of my Deep Bear Simulator, I did find myself getting frustrated because, you know, many of us earn our levels the hard way by doing it the way the game had been made. And you get, like, I bought the game earlier and they've got, you know, kind of all the best gear, all the best stuff, and you're kind of going, is this really the kind of game that I need? Where, you know, you get all these people who just waltz in, come in, they join a random pickup group, next, you know, a couple of hours later almost, there they are, they've got all the skills they want. What's the point of staying in the game? Even at their level, you know, what's the point of staying in the game? Because, well, what are you going to do now? What is there for you to do now you've hit max level? I was really pleased when they made Chapter 2, and I managed to get my town on the top map so people could find it. I can, but I found other things to do in life. I found other things to do in my life. I think the death of my dad did really not help. It made me have a bit more perspective on a few things. Having buggered both my knees in karate, I couldn't really do that anymore. And I did kind of feel the, is this really what I want to do with my life kind of moment. You know, could I not be doing something better for it? I can't remember what I did do with it, but you know, it very much was the, I don't need to be doing this for the rest of my life. I think game called Shroud of the Avatar. You were not in a good place on that day, mind. Actually, yeah. I think that's part of the problem. I think that they heard wind of the day before, but it took that long for something to happen, I think is more accurate. But yeah. Maybe they tried, don't know. Oh, you'll be able to answer this question for me, given that I know what I know. Is Walmart really being shut down over there? Oh, that's just daft then. Yeah, it's a bit daft. Not going to lie on that one. Just sit still, Rory. Wow. I thought of you the moment I heard that some of the Walmarts were shutting down, and I was like, really? You know, seems... No, I must admit, it's... As a Brit, we have food stores like Tesco's and Sainsbury's and stuff, Asda and Lidl, and Walmart is kind of on par with Lidl, frankly. That seems to be a prereq these days. With all due respect, the dumber you are, the more businesses you seem to own. So yeah, struggling because a number of these beads have got really small holes on, and I don't really fancy... I don't know if it was that. I think she had a cold streak to her. I'm not going to deny that. Oh, fair enough. So, we now have 8 bobbins. And I know what I haven't done. I haven't stuck the ends on. So once again, I put some glue on the edge. Here. Nice. And plop a ball bearing on top. Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, sometimes you look back in life and, you know, with hindsight and kind of go, yeah, not necessarily one of my best moments, you know. After all, technically, I don't work for the company I worked for then anymore, but I do. But they outsourced me, and under UK law, they have to 2p you over, which basically is a fancy word for now I work for the new company and now who work for my old company. So I still do the same job for the same money with the same benefits, because that's part of 2p is you can only give them more, you can't take away. Well, you can take away, but it's really, you know, frowned upon, so you have to have very good reason to take away, and because it costs money is not one of them. So I still have my job doing the same shit that I always did. Since I saw you last, I've had bowel cancer, which was all fun and games. So yeah, life's fun, really. I will say, having cancer the second time, it's not half as scary as it was the first. No, I know we did, but I don't think I mentioned it because, well, it's been also a week, to be honest. Someone said to me earlier, "Oh, we had this problem on Thursday, didn't we, Liz?" No, I have no knowledge. I have no memory of such pedantic irrelevance in my life. Basically, they were having connectivity issues, and occasionally their session would hang. I don't remember. I remember that there were issues, but that was because there were network issues. I don't remember that it was related to anything else. We proved that it was purely network, so we ignored it. And moved on. Because we had work to do, so we did it. In the slightly less approved manner. I will say, putting glue on the edges of these beads is really not fun. But you need it to be on the edge because, well, that's the bit that makes the contact. So... I did warn you that this is not going to be exactly, I could do another 40 of the baggers, so, but I really don't think that is the best use of everybody's time. I mean, let's face it, I'm not sure you want to sit here watching me off stream trying to put glue on the edge of a bead, which is all I'm doing off stream, is trying to put the thing on the edge of the bead so that when I stick the ball bearing down on top that it kind of attaches to it. Like that. Now, normally you would leave them then to dry because the bead glue says leave it for friggin' ages. Considering it's bead glue, you really wouldn't, it's not like it's structurally integral shit, but it says surface dry 3 minutes, completely dry time 24 to 48 hours. However, and for anyone who saw my water snakes, I apologise. Because you've now got different pictures every time I do anything like that. Right. What I need is one of these. I'm going to have this nearer to me because I need to see the level of it so I don't dunk my stick in too far. But with any luck, now all you do is you get some varnish on your thing and you put a really thin layer of it over your stick. Yes, I am holding the varnish. I'm aware of that. Because the first time I did this, I couldn't see the height, and I really dunked it in there, and it was way too much varnish on my little bit of sponge. You want to try and make it a fairly even coat, otherwise you'll feel it for the rest of your life. And it will bug you, so don't get drip marks on it is the short answer. Start with the little end to hold, because then I've got the big end to hold when I come back. And the top's coming off. I can feel it under my fingers. It's moving. You're definitely coming off. You look really wonky. I think it's just the lighting. It makes it look really wonky. Now obviously to an extent, the top half is the most important half because that's the end that's going to have the thread on it. So it's very important to make sure you don't miss a bit. One of the people on the bobbin lace forum on Facebook was asking how I did my join, and I'm gonna sound so impatient, but you guys all know me well enough, because well, I am impatient, so shocker. But she asked me originally, is there any, when's the video coming out telling us how to do it? Well, first of all, love, I'm a beginner. I am not an expert. And I sat down and bothered to work this out. I am tired enough in my professional life of being expected to work things out and then documenting it for those who do not. I spend enough of my day doing this without doing it in my hobby as well. Now, I have not made groundbreaking, revelationary stuff, because I really haven't. I have worked with my limited knowledge. I have found a way that does what I wanted it to do, which was to join it up without it being, in your face ugly join. And then I found an even better way that was an even less in your face ugly join. So, having explained to her that because, like I am now, I know you can't really see it because it's slightly off camera, but let me see if I can move the camera a little bit so you can see. I'm just painting it though, I have to point that out. Hang on, let me go over here. That's as far down as it will go. Right. So, and so I did point out that, I'm just sewing it together, kind of thing. How far can you see? You can just about see that, okay. You see, this stick is a lot rougher than a lot of the other sticks. So this might get another coating just to help sort out some of the roughness of it. They do seem to go a little bit rougher sometimes when they get wet. I don't know whether it's these particular sticks or not, but as I promised, I will show you the difference between a good stick and a bad stick in a minute. Because there's definitely bad sticks, and I'll explain that in a minute. But this woman then, replying to my post showing the picture of, hey, it looks, for anyone who was paying attention to my earlier post when I posted the snakes and the attempt for the invisible join that wasn't, she basically kind of ignored the comment that I'd already given her in my response, because like a lot of things, when you post a post, it is common that the posts within it are in effect replies and stay on track about the post after all. And she started asking other people, so how's this done? Why is she not sharing it, kind of thing? And it's like, and this is falling apart. This has got to go. That's got to go, because it's leaving bits of sponge on my bobbin, and I don't really want it welded in for the next 20 years. Give me a new sponge. There we go. Because if you look, there's little white, I don't know if you can see, there's little white bits on it. It's in part because this one was much rougher. I think it was just a bit too much for they should mainly brush off. But she kind of almost, well, so how, because no one, you know, everyone else had kind of gone, oh, it looks like you've made a great improvement. Well done. You know, yeah, I think that you know, while some people liked the more visible version, as it makes it, you know, a bit of interest between, you know, the two pieces, but without being too in your face. You know, but as you were aiming for invisible, yeah, we can see that you've made a great improvement. Well done. You know, most people were kind of fairly supportive. But there's always one, isn't there? There always has to be one who is not happy unless basically you do it for them and send them it. You know, it's, where's the pattern? What exactly? What did you do? How was this done? Well, it's a collection of very standard things. You know, have you even... It's a bit like everything. It's a bit like the... Have you even Googled that? Or did you just come and bitch? Because it comes over as all you've done is come and bitched. You know? And as I say, I get that enough in my day job. Without having it in my hobby. So let me get to the end of varnishing a light layer of varnish on these sticks. Trying not to get any on the bead, but it doesn't really matter if I do. It's not the end of the world. It's more about not leaving great fat streaks in it. In case you're wondering, it does change colour slightly when wet, so I can see where I've been and where I've not been, which is quite useful. Not really pointy enough to get on there. Let's give that a bit of a, use the old finger to take off the worst of it. So yeah, this lady almost seems inherently mad because I haven't come along and announced, here's how I did it. Well, have you ever considered that you know, not everyone wants... I tried to point out to her in the first, when she directly asked me, you know, so when are you going to redo a video? It was kind of like, because I do like I'm doing with this, I take my glasses off and do a lot of it at kind of on the end of my nose level. Videoing it from my point of view becomes quite difficult because, well, my face is in the way and I can't do it and have a camera in the way. And because the holes are quite small and everything involved is quite small, the whole kind of doing it through a camera lens is not really gonna work. So I'm just trying to kind of... Yep, that's a good idea. There we go. Right, so that's a thin layer of varnish on each of them. So realistically, I now have 10, hopefully, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, yep, new bobbins. And when they all dry out, technically, they're good enough for use, she says. I do quite like how they look very much like my dad's walking stick, as I kind of said the other day. They do have kind of my dad's old walking stick kind of feel to them. And I don't think that's the entire pull of it, but I think it helps. There's nothing wrong with any of the bobbins that I've got, although some of them, of course, lead more frustrations than benefits. But when you put some white thread round the black and silver, it does work very well. Now, other choices. So, before I show you the difference of stick, picking your beads, to be honest, absolutely 100% personal preference. I've chosen metal because I wanted the weight, okay? But that is not necessarily a good or a bad thing. If you, depending on what kind of lace you're making, depending on, let me go and wash this so that it's good for another day. Hang on, I shall be right back. Hang on. Back again. Did you nick my spot? Did you? Have you nicked my spot, little man? So, where was I? So, technically, when all this dries, it will be good. Obviously, I have many more to do. As I said, beads are optional, but the reason I put, so it's having to pull them closer to see, the reason I put a ball bearing on the top is so that, now these are slightly longer versions, but you know, like everything, it's just a bit longer, same kind of stuff. When you do your half hitch knot over the top, it gives it something to hang from. You could do this just by having 2 round beads. They do not have to be a flat one and a round one. You could use round beads. You do not have to use ball bearings. I used ball bearings so that they were heavy, but not top heavy, because obviously the bottom's quite heavy, so it makes it kind of not balanced, because if you try and balance them, they don't balance in the middle. It's about there, so it's slightly off centre, but that's fine. You want the bottom to be heavier, so that it pulls it away. But to be honest, any weight will do that. When I say they're heavy, they're not ridiculously heavy. I mean, they have some weight to them, but they're not, you know, I'm not going to grow muscles picking them up. I mean, the 4 tubs of beads between them have quite a bit of weight, but of course, and these are heavy, as are these, but these don't weigh as much as those. Those are the heavy bits. Everything else kind of, I mean, these are heavy, that's next to nothing, it's a bit heavier. So these two are about equal, because they're roughly similar in size. These are light, but then they're thin little tubes. You can add as much decoration or as little as you like. So you can colour them, paint them, put pretty flowers on if that's your kind of thing. You could wood engrave them with names and dates. You could do all manner of crap than people do. But in my mind, they are only really there to hold the bits of yarn while you fling it around your cushion. While I have gone to great lengths to make pretty ones, they're only sort of pretty. They are very functional with pretty bits at the end. That's kind of it. There is not exactly huge decoration, well, in part because I'm not capable. But let me show you the difference between a good stick and a bad stick. Now, here are some sticks. These are bad sticks, and I will show you why they're bad sticks. You have to be careful when ordering online, because first of all, people lie. Secondly, well, people lie, but also, these sticks, I mean, other than being longer, look remarkably like these sticks. They are both the same size in terms of width of stick. But already, as you can see from this one, I hold it up really close. Focus, you miserable piece of camera. Focus on my hand. Thank you. No, you're not going to focus on it. Basically, this is splitting. If I fluff at this end a bit, you might be able to see it a bit more. Let me zoom in. Hang on. Where does that come out? There it is. You can see there, briefly, small, if you squint right at the very, very top against the dark fabric at the top, that it's beginning to splinter. These don't splinter. The proper ones don't splinter. Oh, while I'm at it, hang on. If you look, it's not going to show you the end. It might. I don't know. It's 2 inches high on my screen. Hang on. I can't see shit. Hang on. It's too bright and not focusing. Come on, focus on my hand. Focus. There you go. You can see the end there. Looks like loads of little dots. This one's alive. The end of this one looks like a piece of wood. These are good sticks. The little dots are the sign of a bad stick, and there you can see the fraying and everything. These are cheap and disappointing is the word for them. Very much disappointing. What is that white bit that I see there? There's another one here, hang on. This one. I think it's the sponge when it was falling apart. So, yeah, it is. And the worst thing is the wrong sticks are no cheaper, really, than the right sticks. But they are definitely wrong sticks. They are... Someone researched it for me. I will confess that I did not directly research this myself. But they are effectively made of bamboo. Now, bamboo's a perfectly good plant. It makes great garden stakes and does much good in the world. But it also is a lot frailer. I mean, it's not... I'm giving it a reasonable amount of effort, so it's not going to break on you. But it's potentially going to fall apart and splinter and generally be a shit bag. Whereas these will last you a lifetime. These are actually... I know they're hardwood, but they're actually slightly lighter, but they are made out of actual wood, to use my usual vernacular. And as a result, they're going to last. Now, I chose matte varnish. You can use shiny varnish if you want. But because we've got enough shiny bits on them already, really didn't kind of want the camera hating them too much. But you can get coloured beads, you can use... The only thing I would say is do not use beads with too many sticky out bits. So don't put stars on the top. You can put stars on the bottom if you like. But be aware that, of course, thread will catch on everything it can damn well get its hands on. So if you have spiky bits, such as even the remotest sticky out bit, it'll catch on that and you'll hate it. But I probably would do a second thin layer of varnish over these bobbins just to give them... Because obviously, as I said, I don't want the colour coming off in the long run. But there are 10 bobbins. Looking remarkably bobbin-like. They look blurry, but they're not blurry. It's just the shine, right? You can tell that by the sticks in the middle. It is kind of weird. It is kind of weird that they look kind of out of focus. Kind of a bit like a camera dodging facility, really. But there you go. We have successfully made 10 bobbins. Should be 10. 4, 6, 8, 10. Yep. To go with 2 more I made earlier. And if you notice, this one's slightly grayer. This is the one I did with the wood stain. It's not bad. It really isn't. But it did kind of come off a little bit at the top here, which is why you can see it's slightly brown. I don't hate it. I just think the Sharpie looks better. It's blacker. Which is a bit misleading considering the wood stain is called black and not ebony black. It is black. And it is supposed to be black. Well, Sharpie does much better at that, so Sharpie it is. Plus, of course, Sharpies have other uses, which is always a bonus. So, but there you go. Any questions? Taking questions before we give up for the evening. I know we're on ads soon, so... So for those who missed out earlier, you need stick. Whatever size stick you pick, anything between 5 and 8 millimeters is usually okay. Anything beyond that is a bit chubby. Anything thinner than that, you're looking at breaking it. And that would be really disappointing. Some beads with a hole the size of your stick. Preferably exactly the same size as the stick, although as we've proved, manufacturers lie. Secondly, some colour. Now I used a Sharpie, you can use wood stain, paint, whatever. Obviously paint tends to leave a thin film, so will make your stick fatter, bear that in mind. Maybe some sandpaper if, like me, one of your beads turned out to be smaller. And that you need to sandpaper the stick down a little bit so you can get the bead on the end. Some bead glue to hold the bead on, and some varnish with a finish of your choice to seal in the colour, because the last thing you need is that stuff coming off on your thread. And a symbol, pretty much. It is not a complicated sport, but I am really pleased with the output. I mean, they are touch dry now, and I probably could put a second layer of varnish on now. Yeah, very disappointed with that one. But yeah, very pleased with those. So I have a set of sticks, and of course, just because we can and we haven't done all day, and we need sticks. Yeah, so you've all gone to sleep. I have successfully cured all forms of insomnia this evening. For you have learned how to make lace bobbins. For those of you who do not make lace, I question your sanity. It can't be as bad as mine. See you next week. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.